I mean, companies make decisions and they make changes in midstream. That's, we're not going to change that, but it is going to be a little bit more sane in terms of how we do this. So, any questions on your papers? I was, I always expect the worst, and that way I'm never disappointed. But you guys did really well. I thought there was a good sense of what the assignment was. No one went out on some, crazy tangent or anything like that. The stuff was clear, tight. The organization was, what I saw that really impressed me was how modular. I think you're one of the first classes that had really understood this. If you write in a modular way, you can pull all the modules together later without a lot of sequencing and massaging and introductions and all that kind of stuff. So I was very pleased about that. And I would say the key to the assignment for week 9 is to do the same thing.
So what's the next assignment about again, sir, Professor?
Oh, we're going to get right to it. You're going to have to stick around, Mehdi. You can't leave for a snack, or maybe George could send you some Grubhub. So anyway, So to answer the question, and this has always frustrated me a little bit, because some of the folks around here at DU thought it would be wonderful in the middle of a big complex enterprise architecture endeavor like Arch Assurance, which is a merger, right in the middle, let's throw a security issue at them. And hey, that was fun. Look at how pissed off they were. Let's do it. What is that? The beatings will continue until morale improves. Let's beat them some more. So, part of IT and business and that relationship has changed. And so it's not necessarily unethical to do that. But the amount of changes that take place between 7, 8, 9, 10 is breathtaking. Okay. Can I just say that? All right. It includes expansion of sales markets into 4. Well, one is the EU, so 26 there, but national domains, including India, including China. And, we're going to be talking about regulatory compliance drivers tonight. So, you guys do the math. And oh, by the way, we're going to outsource everything to a insurance document processing organization in Australia. Have we been to Australia? Probably not, but we have a guy. He's got to be somebody's brother-in-law or or something. But I actually worked for a document management company in the DC area. Mainly, we started with microfilm in the 80s, and then got into optical scanning and digital and big databases and internet and all that stuff. We did the Telstra, the Australian, New Zealand phone companies billing, which was all paper. We microfilmed all that stuff for about 3 years, and we had 6 offices in Australia. So I worked in Melbourne for a while, and I should have never left. It's just a great place. So anyway, I'm not sure they handled COVID as well. Maybe I would have swam to New Zealand or something. But anyway, we had a plan in Auckland as well. But my brother got that assignment because it was nicer. So anyway, So managing outsourcing of documents is not the craziest thing in the world, but moving everything to the cloud, dealing with the regulatory compliance drivers in each one of those nationalities. And I'm not talking about just having we'll put a data center in Pune, we'll put one in Shanghai, we'll put one in, I don't know, in Rotterdam, or whatever you want to do it. Fine. But each one of those regions or states, you got the EU, has its own flavor of regulatory compliance, as well as the United States. It's kind of like when California changes their emission standards for a car. General Motors doesn't build a California car. They build a car that meets the California standard, and everybody's got to hop to it. And so anyway, so the standards for all this are going to change. So Betty, I didn't mean to give you too long of an answer, but you may think bad things about me over the next few days. So I'm really trying to be humane by pushing back a little bit and helping my students to do well. And you guys are. There's no, I'm very encouraged, and you're doing really well. You're more than halfway there, and your grades are holding up really well. If you continue this effort at this pace, there's no reason why you won't have a great assignment, something that you can be proud of, and something that you may want to show to a manager or, or someone in your, don't put it in your resume. It may be a little long. So anyway, all right. But the academic people, I had to submit an academic resume, which is called a curriculum vitae. And it's like everything you've ever written, everything you've ever done. I mean, if you walk down the street, went to 7-Eleven, you have to put some, and so it's like 40 pages, anyway. All right. So let's pop through this here. Regulatory environment and just some things for you to keep in mind. And I paid special attention to the assignment. And by about the 6th time I've done this, I've made it smaller and clearer, which I hope is going to be helpful. All right, so we'll look at regulatory environment. We're going to focus on the writing assignment, and I'm going to take a particularly close look, because we're going to the cloud, and because we're going to the cloud in not only North America, where our home location is, but not GDPR, EU, India, China, each of which has certain rules about cloud. Most of them are some form of the general data protection rules, the GDPR. China, however, has some interesting new ones that, whatever they saved in outsourcing, they are now spending on data analysts, and there's someone in every nation who's worrying about nothing but regulatory compliance. And in China, I've talked to a few people who said you may as well have someone from the PRC government in your data center looking at all of your transactions. So if you're selling insurance, which is historically a good market in China, the Chinese government is going to be aware of everything you do. That's the way their data protection and regulatory compliance issues are. And you're seeing some, who was it? Yahoo just finally quit and left last week. You're seeing some other companies that are going to say, you know what, we'll form a subsidiary and we'll airlock the network, and we won't have majority stake in this, and all of our IP is going to disappear. But there's enough market to still make money, and so anyway, we'll talk about that. All right. So here's a little on GDPR and CCPA. I trust you've read this. The GDPR took place in May of 2018. The CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, took place January 1st. We're in the middle of going from a non-regulated internet to a government-regulated internet. The United States is probably behind because it's had the assumption that the technology companies are always going to do right and always take care of us and always protect and respect our privacy, and they would never use our own information to market to us. And every single one of the things that, it's like when they legalized dope in Colorado. I won't go off on this too much, but the people who are pushing it, and I grew up in Panama, and then we moved to Colombia. I've grown it, I've sold it, I've smoked it, I've made bongs. There's nothing in the drug world that I haven't done. And I'm just amazed that I haven't gone to jail. I got polygraphed by the CIA for some confidential work, and my brother had been working there for a while. And I asked him, I said, Bob, what do you tell them, when they ask about your recreational drug habits? And he said, you tell them everything. And I said, well, what about the time in Panama and when we went the wrong way down the road with 20 pounds of pot in the car and got pulled over because we were stoned going the wrong way down the street and the police pulled us over? And he said, yeah, especially you got to tell them that one. So it was kind of funny because he said, look, you just have to be honest. Now, you weren't doing it last weekend. All right. So that's the important thing. So anyway, they said, hey, look, they're going to control from the seed to the plant. And we got more illegal grows, and the utility companies are going crazy because they have a house that's getting, I don't know, $300-400 worth of water and power, and overnight it goes to like $2,500. Oh, they're growing, So anyway, the kids aren't going to get it. The kids have it. We're going to have so much tax money. By the time you subtract all the government and police management of this phenomenon, we're not making any money at all. So anyway, eventually the United States will have a uniform government, nationwide data protection policy that will look surprisingly like the GDPR. And so most, even if you look at India, it's a derivative. They've taken, they've made a template out of the GDPR and they've customized it for their own industrial needs or things like that. So, when people look at regulatory compliance, it's just headaches, but it's supposed to keep people safe. And I really think that with algorithms and other things that are sort of black box stuff that we don't know about, the more that things are obvious, the less evil people will be. That's, Google's first rule is don't be evil. And they haven't always followed it. But anyway, in the long run, a strong regulatory environment means that people pay taxes, that governments function efficiently, and that people are kept safe, and On the other hand, nonconformance can be incredibly dangerous. All right. And, Toyota just had a big recall. The recalls all over the place. And just managing risk that nonconformance can create is super important. So the problem with the regulatory people in most companies and the EA folks is that regulatory doesn't even get invited to this. They're like just a cost thing. They're like shipping and receiving or something, Markets are changing, uncertainty. COVID has done crazy things to regulatory compliance. Things that were never inspected are now being double inspected. I'm teaching the supply chain course next term, and just the amount of change and, where we thought about global sourcing, we're now looking at, they're calling it resourcing or insourcing, and, trying to move global things back to continental or hemisphere or things like that. So most people don't know all the regs that a firm has to answer to. So it usually takes a pretty good sized meeting to put them all down on paper for, the one last look at. The biggest pain about all this is the cost. Cost is rising. Senior controllers were saying it's rising at least 5% year over year. With impacts of COVID, it's only going to go higher. A third predicted the cost of compliance would be greater than 5%. That's a lot of money. 12% expected those costs lower than 1% of revenue. So it's just going to keep going. And the regulatory environment is not getting any more complex. Think about what happened when the G8 met in Rome and a couple of weeks ago and said, you know what? Everyone's going to pay taxes, right? And they had just discovered this cache of documents called Pandora, which was just like the cache of documents in Panama. And there were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of billionaires who said, no, we're not going to pay taxes, and so this game of whack-a-mole where the international community is realizing that money is trying to find a way to a safe haven where taxes won't be, levied against it. And so regulatory is only going to be a higher cost. All right. So here's a summary of GDPR. It is a game changer. More than anything, everyone complained about it, but globally, but they're adopting some form of it now. I don't know what Brexit will do to GDPR, but they're just going to say, look, if you want to do business with an EU company, you got to be GDPR. And the EU and the US are doing some common things now that looks more and more like GDPR. The penalties are pretty significant. 4% up to $20 million for 20 million euros for each offense. And it's been long overdue, but that didn't mean that people were waiting for it. Anyway, so here's Oracle's NetSuite. This is a company in Silicon Valley, good product, good small business app. I'm doing business with someone in a GDPR company. All right. So I've got a whole lot of compliance questions that are going to be asked about me right here. All right. Here's another slot of regulations. So I have SOX and FISMA and stuff that are all about financial organizations. Then I have industry standards for IT risk like COBIT, which is IT accounting, and ISO, which is 31,000, and all this other kind of PCI, which is banking, NIST, which is the NIST cyber framework, SANS is another cybersecurity group, policies that are for the organization, and then who has the controls to make sure that the organization's following all this stuff. It gets really murky pretty fast. These are, this is for Zscaler, and these are the regulatory domains for them, each of which has some unique GDPR-like or national data management policy. All right. CCPA, full enforcement is still off. It starts in 2023. They've already had several versions of this. In July 10th of this year, California Privacy Rights Act was added to CCPA. In other words, you can opt out. You can have the GDPR says the freedom to delete yourself, which, given some of the posts I've made in LinkedIn over the years, I really would like to delete myself. All right, so what's interesting is that passed with 84%. So the IT and the big tech companies are no longer able to tell people, hey, it's good for everybody, so let us do this. All right. When somebody said when you're not paying anything to use the account, then your data is the customer, and that's really the way it works with LinkedIn and Facebook and all these things. I mean, they have their good uses, but they also have some other ones. So Vermont got one enacted July 1 of last year. DC and Washington State and Washington DC. So think about the states that are adopting these things, a little bit more progressive, a little bit more tech friendly, a little bit more concerned about the notions of individual freedom and privacy versus, big tech, and that tension. So this is the thing that folks aren't aware of. This is called Privacy Shield. This is the U.S. Department of Commerce and the European Commission, and its headquarters in Switzerland. So if you give them any grief, someone's going to show up in a van and just kill you. All right. So it's self-certification at this point, but pretty soon the FBI and Interpol and are going to agree that this thing's going to be mandatory. But it's basically when you transfer personal data, you have to use the cloud provider in the person's residency of origin. It's a data sovereignty clause that is increasingly becoming part of cloud computing. The idea used to be, hey, it's all in the cloud, and if that data center blows up, I'm in really big trouble. Now we have the ability to replicate and over long distances, and it's a secure thing. But then they're saying, you know what? I don't want my financial records sitting in the Cayman Islands. I mean, the ones that aren't there already. So anyway, all right. Are we taping this? Okay. All right. Let's let's move on. All right. So here. So any questions on regulatory compliance? In the quick summary is more regulations, more compliance, more cost. So if you know COBIT, which is IT auditing, or if even if you know like Sarbanes-Oxley, I had a girlfriend, that was passed after a bunch of shenanigans with Tyco and Enron and all these things, and they said we want and it's a lot of spreadsheets and a lot of templates that she got paid $300 an hour. This was 20 years ago. $300 an hour could buy some things back then. And so the people who win are the accountants and the lawyers. But because IT is such a unique thing, that's why COBIT is such a cool certification, because you're like a forensic accountant looking at the IT spend in an organization. And it's amazing how much fraud can exist there. So anyway, just trying to tell you where there may be some jobs. All right, so any other questions on this? It's bigger, we can't do anything about it, so get over it. I mean, that's pretty much where it is. Okay, all right, so here's the Arch Assurance case for week 8. I have gently called it more changes to consider. You know, the word consider, it might infer that you have a choice in these matters. And that would be a very bad conclusion to make. It's, choose this or die, pretty much. Okay, so this is the assignment. Okay, so as if this wasn't complex enough, Arch Assurance has decided it wants to position for global expansion. The EU, Australia, Japan, China, and India. Japan? Is Japan in there? I don't know about Japan. I want to check that. Okay. Arch Assurance, number 2, wants to outsource its claims processing function and all supporting technology to another company. The claims processing, okay, we understand what that is. We got an Archie diagram of policies come here, claims come there, money goes in, money goes out, et cetera, et cetera. All supporting technology is a big, hairy rabbit hole, is that all the staff, all the sales, all the, all the cloud, are they going to manage the cloud for us? I just think that was poorly written. It's not in the new one, because you can't outsource all your supporting technology. It's just crazy. I mean, you still have the responsibility for it. So that means audit, functions, monitoring, et cetera. And all you can't do a regulatory compliance without touching the data and testing it and doing, required field and remote audits. So
definitely, if you work for the government, especially the U.S. government, you cannot outsource everything, especially security.
Yeah, don't ever outsource your lawyers, because everyone hates lawyers until they need them. Yeah, that's a really good point. This, I think, is sloppy writing and doesn't reflect good business policy. So we clean that up. All right. Next thing, Arch Assurance has decided to shift to a cloud-first strategy for information systems and is searching for providers of cloud-based applications that can manage customer data. Now, we're going to have a little special module on who you're going to pick to be your global cloud provider. Now, you can pick the best in breed in every nationality, including all of the EU countries. So you can visit, the Netherlands and Luxembourg and France, and then end up in like Estonia or something. Anyway, nothing wrong with any of those countries. So how do we pick the right cloud provider if we're cloud first? This is a question that we're going to wrestle with, and there are a few more surprises in week 10 when we're using all this probeware. We're going to throw AI processing, machine learning, all this stuff in a cloud-based environment to mine data from all the smart devices and IoT stuff that we're giving away to our wonderful customers so we can mine the hell out of them. And if they go 5 miles an hour more in the neighborhood, we're going to double their insurance premium. I mean, we're going to kill them. Or we're just going to drop them. Anybody who drives, anyone who has more than 2 tickets, they're just going to not be renewed. Or we'll have a special insurance pool where we'll sell out some of the risk and charge them 10 times the amount. So anyway, this is where it's going. And then on their life insurance policies, we'll check how many chili dogs they have on a monthly basis and what other, how much refined sugar and caffeine and, and all that stuff. So, so Arch Insurance is moving its remaining information systems and technology to leverage in the cloud the power of infrastructure as a service. All right. Data point 4. You are Arch Insurance head of strategy. Okay. This is a different role. You're not IT enterprise architect dude. You are head of strategy, strategery, as George W. Bush used to call it. You've been asked to prepare a report explaining the impacts of regulation on Arch Insurance plans, and then what issues of risk do we have to deal with? All right, so that's a big burrito, okay? That's a lot of stuff to consider. So what I've tried to do is break it down. And first of all, your report's going to be like your other work, crisp and tight, regulatory compliance concerns across the regions. Okay. I've seen students just come up with a 2 or 3 page table that has, security, data privacy, data sovereignty, and then you have China, India, Gdpr, CCPA, et cetera. It doesn't have to be War and Peace, short, crisp, India, similar to GDPR, but with X. China, based on, and you could find this is out there, pretty easy to find from a research position. How does cloud, behind everything you're writing, not only for this week, but for next week, how does cloud affect this decision? Okay, so which cloud provider? You're going to spend the rest of your life researching cloud companies all over the world to find the best one? Are you in each nation? I mean, there may be advantages in the sense that they may know the local governance, and they may, you may want to hire a consultant or someone who's the interface from that country, especially in China, especially in India, even the GDPR, working with the European Commission and the EU on IT stuff. I worked with them on data center power when I was with the Storage Networking Industry Association, and God, it took us 3 weeks to agree to make coffee. I mean, it just took, it's painful. So my recommendation, but I'm not writing the paper, is you choose a cloud service provider that does good work in all these places, rather than looking, Facebook, one thing I agree with them, their motto is, don't let perfect get in the way of good enough. Okay. You need to find a good enough cloud provider. Just as they used to say, nobody got fired for hiring IBM. Nobody got fired for hiring Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. So you want to run Google Cloud, you want to run Azure, you want to run Amazon Web Services, AWS, et cetera. So I don't really care. I mean, I watched the feds fight over this like there was some difference. And They just determined it was marketing budgets and lobbyists who really were determining who was going to get the contract for this was for the DoD, FedRAMP, JEDI, which is going to get replicated, spread out to. Feds always do that. They never want to have a sole provider of anything. Who's the best firm, global or this is a strategic decision, and you're the strategery guy. So we decided to go with best in country, which is not a bad decision, just takes longer, or best in the world. Okay, and this is why. Here are the regulatory issues. This is going to take you some time. What security do we have with our cloud provider? Okay, what are the risks? This is what they want to answer. They want answered in the report. So this is your checklist. All right, I did something that's free. Doggone it, because I'm just such a good professor. I took one of them, and I've actually used AWS. I have an account. I've spun up instances, and just I use it sometimes to teach when I teach cloud computing, or I do tutorials, or sometimes I teach the Amazon certification. By the way, last week we talked about crossing the chasm and Gartner, and the trough, the Gartner chart of acceptance and technology. Another chart that they do is what they call the Magic Quadrant. And Amazon actually published the latest Magic Quadrant on cloud infrastructure and platform. Okay, so it's not the hype cycle, which is one of Gartner's things, but the Magic Quadrant. And you could see they have a quadrant that's like the ability to execute and the comprehensiveness or the completeness of the vision, which admittedly is a little fuzzy. You can't put numbers on that, but you can put, comparisons of companies, etc. And so you have challengers and leaders, you have niche players, and you have visionaries. So you look at Jack Ma in Alibaba. He's so innovative, he's going to go to jail in China. I mean, he's a really nice guy. I got to meet him when we were doing some things over there. But if you look at the leaders who are, who have the ability to execute, what did I say? AWS, Microsoft, Google. Oracle is not bad. You want to do an Oracle cloud, you work for Oracle and you get fired if you don't. Yeah, okay, fine. Tencent is a follower of Alibaba, but they're moving up. IBM they seem to be late to the cloud market, but the cloud market isn't over. Okay, so anyway, so that's nice. Here's the regulatory domains where Amazon has regionals, and I've tried to use the URLs where I got this stuff. So I don't know if one of you chose to use Amazon, it might result in less work. On the other hand, you may think, oh, Professor Bauer's trying to brainwash me. I am not trying to brainwash you with Amazon. I have some real suspicions about Jeff Bezos. I'm trying to keep it, trying to keep neutral about this. These are just screen grabs from their website. All right, and security, availability, performance, scalability. I did a screen rip of Amazon.com security services, compliance offerings. Wow, would I need that? Data protection. If you want to learn how they do it and all that stuff, it goes right to their online training. The first few certification classes are free. Like all drug dealers, the first hit's always free. So, so I just looked up CCPA, and there's a whole preparing for the, California Consumer Privacy Act, GDPR. cloud security. They got white papers on it, and away you go. They have what you want to say, oh, we're going to the cloud. Amazon's going to take care of all our security. No, they're not. Amazon will be there for us all the time. No, they won't. Maybe you'll want to get that data back. Do you know how to repatriate it? Do you know how to get it back? Or if you don't pay for a couple of weeks, where it goes. I mean, there's some, so you got to be really careful about this. And they have the idea, their shared responsibility model of all the things I've seen as a diagram that splits the responsibility of security of the cloud. They run the data centers, they run the access, they run, so the security of their cloud is their responsibility. Now you spell all this out in a legal agreement, but if you put rights and permissions that everyone has read access to all the social security numbers in your cloud instance, that's your problem, pal. And you're probably going to jail for it, So I like this diagram where it says, here's the customer's responsibility, and here's AWS's responsibility. And all I could say is imagine, one of the first skills we learn as business executives is how to rip off somebody else's PowerPoint ideas. And I think this is one of no, I'm shocked. Oh, Professor Bauer, you would never do that. I have found this to be one of the best illustrations of the reality that this is a shared responsibility. Okay, so this idea, Mehdi, like you said earlier, nobody's outsourcing all this crap and leaving it for somebody else. Not in Australia, not in China, not in Pune, not in Seattle. So anyway, this is a nice way to structure who has to do what. Now, I'm sure that Microsoft has stolen this diagram and they've put it in Microsoft Blue and some other design elements to it, but it's probably about the same thing. And Google and Oracle probably have something too. So anyway, this is the rubric. Like everything, it's exactly and write it. If you could take your old paper that didn't have any formatting problems, just type over it. Save it as something else first, and then type over it. So that's it. Questions on this paper, about the same as the security paper. I think you will not have any problems finding the regulatory compliance drivers. But the last part about the risk, that's going to be, I'm not going to tell you how to write that. You're moving to the cloud, you're outsourcing, you're at least quadrupling your sales force, you're moving outside of an environment that to a lot of other stuff. Whatever you think you're going to save by having all the stuff done in some back room in Melbourne or Sydney, you are more than going to spend on local talent and legal people who you trust relocating to all of these regional company centers that you've now got. It's a lot of moves. I mean, I think the Normandy landings at D-Day looked simple compared to all the moving parts in this thing. So one thing they haven't said is how long it's going to take. And the answer that I have is longer than you think. That's all I can say. And it'll cost more than you think. And all these promises that the cloud's going to save you money, maybe. All right. So I'm not asking you to judge whether or not your bosses are idiots, because you really can't write that unless you have a really good job waiting in the wings. But from a strategy standpoint, does cloud make sense? Yeah. Does outsourcing, labor-intensive administrative process, if this is all, now I would move to optical mark, registration and online forms that could be automatically processed anywhere, and something that would be a handwritten form, gosh, that should go away. You should give them a year to migrate to something that can be done anywhere. But as you view each of these as an individual thing, should we go to India? Should we go to China? Traditionally, these societies, I'm not trying to judge one society over another, but these societies place great emphasis on insurance, far more than Indo-European, far more than Western Hemisphere. Okay, so they're not crazy to try to go there. But I think I'm a normal person most of the time. And normally when I try to do a lot of things, you introduce a lot of risk. You introduce more risk than doing, but, iterative, agile, someone would call this agile, but they may use it in the meeting on a slide somewhere, but when you sit in the room with all the people who have to do all this stuff, there's going to be a lot of yelling and screaming and whose budget is this and how are we going to pay for that? That's just kind of the way it works. So anyway, yeah, and that part of the assignment, a page, 500 words. What are the risks? You can't, you can mitigate them, but you can't eliminate them. What are the risks? Losing control, regulatory integrity. I mean, there's a lot of things, not just the IT interconnects in the cloud, all that stuff. So, any questions that you guys have? Looks like a lot of fun, huh? Can you believe that you're paying to have this much fun? To be verbally abused. But you know what? This is starting to resemble real work that real architects have to do. And in that respect, I do think that the suffering is authentic. It's not, they're not just making up, some kind of digital waterboarding or something like that. Enhanced interrogation, enhanced architecture. That's what we'll call it. Oh, that's terrible. We shouldn't laugh about that. I'm embarrassed my country has done some things like this. Anyway, it's the political science degree that's in another department. Okay. Or the theology degree. So anyway, other questions that you guys have? All right. Shoot me any questions you have. I'll shoot this over to Harshitha and make sure she gets it. Have the video posted and we'll all be good. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Professor B.
Yeah, and remember, next week is week 10. And I had a friend who's an art critic who writes, like screenplays and stuff. He said, the final act may not be the best act of the play, but it's always the final act. So we'll put a wrapper on this thing and yeah, just be, right in a silo for this topic, because that way you can use it and move it and, just keep up that structure and it's going to really pay. Week 10 will be a bit of a slog. The fact that we start on Tuesday and I won't have the assignments due until that weekend will give you Should give you all the time. Anyway, should